Do you want to relive the golden days of Stockton? Join Nate Knott on Stockton Alive every first and third Monday at 6 p.m. Tune into thevoiceofstockton.org.
Hello, welcome to Chef Tobias Cooks, here where we have kitchen conversations with professional chefs, cooks, home cooks, bakers, and people that just can't cook. So join us every week for our kitchen conversations and learn a thing or two. And I don't burn nothing in my kitchen.
My name is Josh, and you're listening to KXVS, the voice of Stockton, 92.1 FM. Catch us live on Facebook, YouTube, and the TuneIn app.
The views and opinions expressed in the following program do not necessarily reflect those of KXVS, the voice of Stockton, or its parents, affiliates, management, and staff.
Welcome to Interfaith Voices, new monthly program coordinated by the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Stockton Social Justice Committee. I'm Jeri Bigbee. I'm the chair of our Social Justice Committee, and I welcome you to our new and exciting show. The purpose of our show is to explore social justice concerns in Stockton and San Joaquin County from an inclusive interfaith perspective. Our goal is to promote interfaith dialogue, understanding, and collaboration in addressing the pressing issues in our community. Today's topic that we'll be talking about is interfaith community organizing, and I'm so excited to be featuring Faith in the Valley and Faith in San Joaquin, our local organization. And I have two amazing guests with me today, Pastor Trena Turner, the Executive Director of Faith in the Valley, and Pastor Curtis Smith, County Director of Faith in San Joaquin. Welcome. So let's get started, and I have a few questions for you. And I think first and foremost, tell us about what is Faith in the Valley? What's that organization about? Tell us.
I'd love to. First of all, I want to say thank you so much for having us on. We're excited about that on today. Faith in the Valley. Faith in the Valley is an organization comprised of 5 separate entities, if you would, or federations. We came together in October of 2016 to form Faith in the Valley. We're multi-faith, multicultural organization, and we organize around issues of social justice, predominantly in congregational spaces, in temples, mosques, etc., but also in some community spaces as well. We love to work with our leaders, with people in the community, to teach them how to organize, how to fight for social justice and for change, how to fight for their earth, how to fight for clean air, clean water, protect immigrant rights. And so we'll get into some of that. But Faith in the Valley, that's basically what we do. We want to work to give everyone a voice to be able to fight for policy change.
Wonderful. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Pastor Curtis, can you talk about how our local organization, Faith in San Joaquin, fits in?
Well, we are one definitely of the 5. And so on a local platform, we are looking into those local issues. As we find out that Faith in the Valley is a regional organization. But again, when we came together, we wanted to make sure that the voices within our own individual locations also were uplifted, and that whatever was unique to our area, to the San Joaquin Valley, would not be overlooked, within the larger picture or scale of things, And so basically the local organization listens to the needs of the people, listen to the concerns, the opinions, and things that they're going to in the different congregations that we are connected to, the communities, and basically we organize around those things that they are most interested in, and make sure that the grassroots leaders in our communities, whose voices are usually not heard, that they're uplifted, so that we can enforce policy change here on a local level.
Wonderful. Okay. And how does that fit in with the national picture? Because there's other organizations like this in other areas. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, so throughout, not just the United States, we're even international now. We're part of a federation. We're one of a federation connected with Pico. And Pico is a national and international organizing entity. And so there are people throughout the United States that have their own individual 501c3s, they're nonprofits, but Pico then being the umbrella over all of them. Pico, by the way, they've been an acronym for so long, we recently announced a name change so that people will be able to better relate with Pico. So effective May, Pico will become Faith in Action.
And what did Pico stand for before?
Pico before was
People Improving Communities Through Organizing.
Aha.
They've had a couple of different names. That's why I looked to Pastor Curtis. Which one do we want to say?
Right. Yeah.
The latest one, the one they had longest, was People Improving Communities Through Organizing. Yes.
Oh, that'll be exciting. New name?
Yes.
Great, great. Well, it sounds like we're right at the forefront of that.
Oh, yes.
Indeed. Okay, I'd like to maybe step back just a little bit and learn a little bit more about each of you. And tell us a little bit about your journey and how you've come to do this important work that you're doing, and particularly from your own faith journey. Tell us about yourself.
I'll have you start since you've been longest.
I definitely don't want to take the longest though, but it's been an interesting journey. I say as far as this path that I did not choose, as to say in the essence, I mean, you know, my school goal. I went to University of Pacific here in Stockton, and this was not on the radar. Although, retrospect, I look back at some of the things that I was doing there on campus, and it wasn't just causing trouble. Actually, I was actually listening to some of the concerns and raising up those conditions. It wasn't seemed to be like that. It wasn't described like that by my parents at the time. But leading here to this work, I should say locally and to a current day, is that when I was a youth pastor in Sacramento, California, I was introduced to a federation there called Sacramento Act, and area congregations together. And so they were doing youth organizing, and they had basically really had a hard time kind of getting the churches as far as the level of the senior pastors together. And so they were doing a lot of initiatives around youth. So their idea was like, let's go to the youth groups, let's go to the youth ministries. And even though the youth aren't voters or at voting age, is that we can definitely, you know, mobilize and teach the youth how to be a voice within, you know, their communities. And so I was in the area of South Sacramento. And so a lot of different, you know, things going on as far as concerns there. So I was introduced into organizing at that level, and basically for about 8 to 9 years there as a youth pastor. Just got involved in a cigarette tax for youth groups and youth communities. We were able to form one of the first leadership conferences there in the Meadowview area when their former mayor Kevin Johnson was just starting to run. We actually had a candidate forum with the youth of the city, and so that was the start. And basically when I came and moved here to Stockton, it was automatic to find what's the organization that's doing this kind of work here. And I moved here at the time that the homicides were at its height, you know, that they were going on, and we had just implemented ceasefire in Sacramento. So I was just very much wanting to get started and involved here, because I came back to a place where my family, you know, where my siblings were, and basically saw those threats and dangers to my own family and community. And so I wanted to be a part of whatever change we could make here in Stockton. And so I started as a, you know, clergy leader here in Stockton, and again, with this not being on my radar, and ended up as director of the local organization here. But I definitely know that it's a place that I wouldn't be any other place, or I should say feel at home in any other place except for where I am right now and doing what I'm doing now.
Perfect. Yeah. Pastor Trena?
Yeah, for me, I can tell you it looked a lot different. So I did not know anything whatsoever about organizing. I don't know how I missed it. I don't know, slept through those classes. I spent 25 years working for the telephone company, so my background is in telecommunications. I was blessed through that career to be able to teach basically managers how to manage. I ran call centers. I got an opportunity to travel a lot for the telephone company, loved that, and at the end of 25 years, I stepped away only to help my husband build churches. So my husband is a local pastor here of Victory and Praise Church, and he is now actually a bishop. We have 15 churches, but at the time we were growing that out. And so here I was, I'd like to say retired, even though my age doesn't match it. So I walked away from the telephone company. We started working in the church. And we really saw blessings over our life through that process. We started right here in Stockton as our first plant. Again, not knowing anything about organizing, we were led to do a lot of community work. So we did the giving away of the shoes and the coats and the various types of clothing articles. We fed people. We did programs for the children. We did some tutoring. We did just basically different programs designed to keep the children off of the street. And in that process, I have 7 wonderful grandbabies, so I was loving just being a grandmom. And my life, I'd say, was interrupted by actually an amazing woman by the name of Amelia Adams. She's passed on now, and she was telling me, my husband and I, you need to come and be a part of PACT. PACT was the local organization, organizing entity here in Stockton. And she told us to come be a part, and I would come to some of the meetings, and I just did not, for the first couple of times, I was a slow learner, I guess. I didn't understand the point of what PAC was doing, and we were extremely busy. Our church was growing. It was a startup church, but it was growing. We began to plant other churches, and so I was really trying to pour into the leadership, people that was coming in from the community. We were seeing lives transformed and changed. We were having a wonderful results with our community. And Pastor Amelia kept inviting us back to come again to PACT, and I received an invitation to Nashville, Tennessee to attend one of the Pico leadership summits. And when I got to their training session, I saw people from all over the nation, I should say, that was there basically being taught how to organize. And all of a sudden, the bells, it's like, oh my, this is what they're trying to do. I get it. So I was excited, and still at a loss for why I didn't know about this already. We had a church, what you would consider a thriving church. We're non-denominational. We're doing a lot of amazing things in the community, yet we did not know about policy change and how to do, get into ballot initiatives, how to fight and make your voice be known. And so through that, attending that one particular meeting, I came back and instituted my own version of what would be a community justice ministry. And so we started doing work and stayed in contact with PACT, and from there I learned that there were 5 entities that was talking about merging. So that was Kern County, there was Fresno, Stanislaus, Merced, and then San Joaquin. And in the process, I learned, depending on who you talk to, they'd been talking about that anywhere from 3 to 7 years, and was like, okay, wait, this either makes sense or it does not. So although I'm just learning about the whole policy change and organizing, I understood how to build power and how to work with people and relationships. And so I then had an opportunity to work with the boards of directors, because basically what that would require is for these 5 separate 501c3s to merge and become one. And so I became a proponent from that. I started meeting with the boards, this outsider, etc., and they merged. And when we finally got through all the legalities of that, then it was like, okay, now we need an executive director. And I'm like, yes, let me talk to you about who you need. You need someone that's going to motivate the people and make sure that they're a team builder, etc. And they were like, no, Pastor, we think we want you to do that. And it was like, Father God, are you kidding me? So yeah, that was a real surprise for me. And then, of course, I had to go through an interview process, an extensive interview process, actually, to apply for the job. But in my seeking God, in my own faith tradition, I was really looking for God to just kind of give me some direction. And I think I was really wanting him to say, no, just help someone else. And that didn't happen like that. So I became, in December, I think it was, I became, of 2016, the executive director for an area that I did not have a lot of background and what I felt preparation for. But I tell you, in this first little bit over a year, I really have seen a lot. We've had some wonderful wins in the area. As I'm learning, I have 21 people in my organization that are amazing organizers, and they know the ins and outs of organizing, how to build, policy platform, etc. And what I'm there, I feel like I'm their cheerleader, working behind the scenes to push them to go forward with that right balance that they need to have in their lives, so that they are building power in each of the communities for change.
Fabulous. Thank you for those stories. It makes it so much richer. Terrific. So tell us a little bit about what are some of the major issues that Faith in the Valley is really targeting and working on right now. We have many issues. So which ones are the priority issues right now?
Yeah, so there are 5 major policy platforms, or pillars we call them, for Faith in the Valley, and this is across all 5 counties. Number 1 being immigration. As you can imagine, with all of the threats that currently come out from our administration, immigration basically we're fighting for a Clean Dream Act. We're fighting that families are not separated. We're fighting to ensure that people, regardless of status, have health care, etc. We're fighting for sanctuary and protection for our undocumented individuals. Understanding the history of what got many of them where they are, we believe it is a right fight to be into. So immigration is one of them. We also fight for criminal justice, which has a lot to do with policing and police accountability. We're blessed in the local area. I'll let Pastor Curtis talk about that, for the relationships that we have. But across our counties, all of it is not quite the same. In Kern County, for example, we have one of the deadliest police forces. Is it California, or is it in the states? In California, in the state, yeah. In that, they have the most number of police-involved shootings. So very high. So where we're blessed to be in Stockton, some of our other counties have it a little bit, different than that. We have what we say. Immigration, criminal justice. There's also education and environmental. Oh yeah, air quality. Again, where we are in the Central Valley, the air quality here is poor. Many people don't understand the reasons why, knowing that it has everything to do with planning. It has to do with our green spaces. It has so much to do with different, if we're not holding businesses as they come in, corporations, accountable to be good neighbors and to ensure that the waste and stuff that comes, even trucks that come in, when we have new companies that's coming in, we're excited for them, but we want to make sure as they're passing our schools and as they pass in our communities that they're not polluting the air and causing further harm, of course, because then we see high rates of asthma, low birth weight, etc. And so it continues to impact people in our communities. So yeah, those are pretty much ours. We have some housing issues here in San Joaquin. Oh my word. I think here in San Joaquin, we're now at a 2% vacancy rate for property. Wow. And so we know that in the Bay Area, they've been pushing increasing rates, rents, housing, mortgage, etc., which then drives people into our areas. And we don't want to be unwelcoming to them. But nevertheless, the added people that's coming here that's used to jobs at perhaps a higher rate, they can afford higher rents. And it really is pushing our people out literally into the streets. So homelessness is another issue that we all see right now that is impacting our neighborhoods, and that we just really still don't have a right answer to get underneath that.
Aha. Good. Pastor Curtis, in terms of particularly our local needs here in San Joaquin County, anything you'd add to that?
Well, we've had, we fall in all of those categories. I think one of the major things that I have noticed, because again, I said my personal interest was into the criminal justice piece, or the violence prevention. Yes. And so coming into the role of director, I started really seeing how they relate to each other. So how we have a mantra with Faith in the Valley that one people, one fight. And so at one point I was isolated, I should say, in a silo of one area that I thought was the issue that was affecting my congregants or my community, and I was kind of blinded to the others that were actually really, that makes this one people, one fight. So when we're looking at San Joaquin, and you're talking about, violence prevention, criminal justice, we're talking about some of the fights that we have as far as, what is the fight for mass incarceration? What is mass incarceration? It seems like San Joaquin County, that our industry has become corrections. That at the same time, as looking at this fight, is that I've seen most of our, friends that I grew up with or people that I know are working in the area of corrections, because we have built more prison and jail facilities here than we have built schools. And so that's how the intersection comes as far as the criminal justice piece and the education, because of the lack of resources that has gone into our schools. So now Stockton is ranked number 3 worst school district in the entire country. And so those are some things specific to Stockton. We have our own issues when it comes to, definitely our air, because having conversations with some of our, I should say, air board, district board constituents, we've been told that this air has been blowing from other areas.
China.
And landing.
Right.
Here, like we built some type of environmental wall here in Stockton, and it just sticks here.
Wow.
Well, what I didn't understand is really the effect of what was causing those things in the valley, and the fact that my brother, at age 34, died here of asthma-related, complications. And so, as we've seen, I should say, homicides take place, is that I've come to realize that there was a killer that was involved in my brother's shooting. And so those areas, why are certain zip codes in our city, worse for, I should say, for asthmatics, allergies, and things like that? Or why does it matter that we have certain zip codes where your age expectancy, is lower, than others? So, these have been some of the areas. Of course, immigration is high. Not knowing that this would be an effect to me until one Sunday when one of my congregation members had an uncle that was being picked up by ICE as our service was going on the Sunday morning. So that thrust me into the action of responding to the needs of my congregation and really being involved with the family that's going through the process. 3 weeks ago, I was at the detention center here in Stockton trying to help a family get, finances to one of their family members who was being deported that afternoon. And so we have a Valley Watch network that's regional, but we really see the connection between the region because this family was in Stanislaus County. Yeah. But we found out that, they were being deported they were being transferred to our own detention center here in Stockton. And to tell you the truth, it wasn't until I drove up on that property that I even knew that we had that facility here. And it was the experience was just like I was in some type of TV show somewhere, just going through the process, but also seeing basically what happened inside, seeing it even as how I was treated, not, announcing myself as someone working for an organization, but being someone that was connected to the family that wanted to see, being a faith leader in the community that wanted to check on the, the health and welfare of another one of our, of our citizens. And so these have been some of the areas that we have, we have seen the families that are trying to, we've helped, with some of the things we passed here, like Proposition 47 and 57, which allowed second chances, to those who've been formerly incarcerated. And now we're, gearing up to protect these very same, wins that we've had that, some of the, forces, I say, or, that are coming against them want to actually uproot what we have given, I should say, the freedoms and liberties and the second chances in life that we've given to our citizens here. We had a wonderful resource fair in Delta to help people with their, Proposition 47 reclassifications. And now, we have to fight for those things. And so we have some very interesting, I should say, times going on here in San Joaquin. And we can connect them in a way to other areas. But again, different situations affect us in different ways, and also we see that different responses from the community in different areas based upon what's going on there, or even the awareness, or I should say even lack of awareness or education in how we're responding to them specifically here in San Joaquin County.
Good. So the organization Faith in the Valley is composed of a number of faith communities. Am I right?
That's right.
Can you tell us, at least here in San Joaquin County, some of the faith communities that are on board as this interfaith effort?
I surely will. And those of you listening and watching, please do not hold it against me if I miss your name. So we do have your congregation, the First United Universalist Church. That's one of the congregations, Victory and Praise Church, Destiny Christian Center, Upper Room Ministry. We have Evangelist Church of God in Christ, Stockton Covenant Church, St. Linus, St. Michael, St. Gertrude. We have, hold on, I am getting it. there's many of them coming to the table and joining in. I don't want to again miss anybody, but we have the Maranatha Church of God in Christ and Galatians Community Church, and so there's quite a few, you know, that are onboarding. There's also, I should say, some that are playing the hokey pokey. You know, they're sticking their foot in, just trying to see. But it's been, I should say, a refreshing thing that since the new organization has come together, is that we have been able to sit down and have conversations, because the question now among some of our faith leaders in the city is, I want to know how. Is how do we get involved?
Great.
And then even some are like, show me, even, you know, according to our faith in our, you know, our text, you know, so it's causing, you know, allowing us, I don't say causing, but allowing us to become more aware, you know, of other faith traditions, you know, of the interfaith relationships, in order that we, you know, may have those conversations and show that this is what we're called to do, you know, that our faith leads us into this work. And so, so yeah, and then St. Anne's, I can't forget St. Anne's.
Right.
Did I miss anybody, Pastor Trena?
I think you did. I think you did a really good job, Pastor Curtis. I think the main thing is us being, when we say multi-faith, we do have people from various backgrounds. It's not just any one. That's the main thing we want you to understand. Whatever the background, whatever the framing is, at Faith in the Valley, you'll have a place to come in and serve. And I guess the main importance of that is to be able to show people how to elevate new voices. Our faith spaces, regardless if it's a native tribe that has their own practices, whether it is Unitarian or Catholic or, you know, whatever the background is. We have some that are Muslim, etc., right? Whatever it is, there are people that's gathered there already under the umbrella of faith. And what we desire is to be able to work with the people that are already coming to teach them how to elevate their voices. People cannot know what's going on. I think we're almost trained to believe what happens in our community is just a matter of this is the way it always is. And there's nothing that we can do about it. And then you have the narrative out there that says that, you know, your vote won't matter. It doesn't, you won't count. And we really have seen through proof that it absolutely matters. We are more than they. And if we can get people to rise up, number one, understand the issues, understand that you have a voice. My personal congregation, we came on board right when we were doing Prop 47. Didn't know anything about it. And I won't even say ashamed to say, but I was one of the ones that would say, well, if you did the crime, you know, you're in jail. Surely you'd know that, right? Out of ignorance, because once you get underneath that, and what we learned through Prop 47 is that the law just is not equal to everyone. Had no clue that the statistical fact that is there, that the judges already know, the prosecutor already knows, the DA already knows, everyone that's in law enforcement already knows that if you're a person of color and commit a crime, you will have a larger sentencing, a longer sentencing. There will be things that you will not even have an option on the table to take advantage of, as opposed to someone that's not a person of color. When you start looking at that, you're like, well, wait a minute, maybe we should not be penalizing these people the same way. If all things were equal, then that might be a different story. So when we came on with Prop 47 talking about reclassification, that was our first local fight, and it opened up our eyes to so many things that you would have one answer. There's a scripture in the Bible that speaks to, I'm going to just paraphrase it. It says, any story sounds correct until you hear the other side, right? And I felt like, what was the gentleman that used to say, and this is the rest of the story, right? And so then we started learning the rest of the story, what was underneath some of the statistics and things. And it was like, you know, people can make up their own mind. You won't get into every fight, but we're asking for you to come in closer to Faith in the Valley to see what makes sense for you. Maybe you will just fight for the environment. Guess what? We need voices fighting for our environment, because we all like to breathe. And although everyone likes to breathe, someone that's worried about their families being separated and whether or not they're going to be snatched up by ICE in a raid, that they did come for you or they didn't come from you, you're still just, you know, caught up in it. They're going to worry about air as a secondary priority. That's not something that they may be able to fight on right now. Someone that's worried about whether or not that, they will be mistaken for someone different because of the color of their skin, etc., and not have the same rights. And we just had the young man that was shot, and we don't know all the details, but it didn't look good from what was reported, right? The gentleman that was shot in Sacramento. You will worry, if that's your environment, you'll worry about air at a different priority. And so if you're wanting to fight about air, wonderful. We need that, right? Someone that is fighting for immigration, we need you to come in and fight for immigration. If it's a matter of criminal justice, in other words, what I'm saying is everyone has a role to play, but if we all stay home and say it's not going to matter, guess what? It won't matter. Right? So we really do need to have people with their voices. We do training classes all the time to help you understand, right? What we were doing in providing, we have and I try not to have a complaint against faith spaces that says, you know what, they're the problem. We need more than prayer. We need more than, no, I believe in the power of prayer, but we need prayer and action, prayer that drives our hands and our feet to action. And I was one of the congregations that felt like as long as we were feeding the hungry and doing those things, we were a good church doing the right things. And we still do those things, but we learned that beyond that, we do have to first of all be educated and understand what the issues are. Understand that for every person's pain, there is someone that's benefiting from that pain. There is an entity out there that's getting paid to keep the status quo, right? And so our job is to help people first of all step into the place where they're able to elevate their voices, but then teach them how to do the research for themselves. Do research and determine why is that the way that it is, and whatever your that is, why is it that way, right? And then once the research is done, you can pretty much follow the money, and there normally is a culprit somewhere at the end of that that's causing that pain. And this is what we like to train people to do for yourselves. So not just hearing what Trena said or Pastor Curtis or anyone, Faith in the Valley, Jeri, not even you, we love you, not just hearing that. Do the research on your own, and once it shows you some things, then find out where you can get involved on a regular basis. Pastor Curtis said a lot a minute ago when he talked about we fought for Prop 47, Prop 57, etc. And now, because that was implemented, it was actually voted into law, we turn away to do other things. But now the powers that be, there are other entities now that says, great, while they're not looking, let's undo what they did. And so voters, though you voted for Prop 47, 57, and a slew of other things, there are right now efforts underway that would undermine that and take it away. So the work is continuous. So you have to pace yourself to say, not only do I want to pass a ballot, not only do I want to have a win, I need to stick around and ensure that it's implemented in the way that we believe it should be to provide justice for all.
Great. Good work. Yeah.
Thank you.
You use the term the umbrella of faith.
Yes.
I love that term. And do you find that in doing social justice work, that those of us in the umbrella of faith have some power in that, especially from an interfaith perspective? When we go to a city council or we write to a legislature and we say we represent people of faith, diverse people of faith in our community, do you find that that people listen?
I absolutely believe that people listen. I believe that it has power. I believe it's when you hope against hope, right? People of faith have hope. They have love. There are some powerful forces in our universe that I believe that people can rally behind, regardless of what their denominational thought process is, one way or the other. And again, I'm glad, I just want to say that too as well. For Faith in the Valley, we're not trying to argue where our differences are. We're trying to see where we can come together in love to fight to protect our communities, protect our environment, protect the people of our family that we love. So yeah, and I think the elected officials, I think they believe that faith, people of faith, are almost impotent in that they don't have power, that they don't have the ability to rally together because we've been so long in our silos of differences and what have you. And now that we're coming together, united, kind of arms locked, and when you show up in spaces, I've been in places where I've had an opportunity to march together with others, and everyone in their different liturgical garb or what have you, knowing that we come from different spaces, but no, we're united on this we fight together for, and it absolutely makes a difference, and it moves people to sit up and kind of pay attention and know that they have to in kind respond.
Great. Good. So tell us a little bit about some of the challenges of putting together a relatively new organization with very important and lots of goals, lots of work to do. What kind of some of the challenges you're facing at this point?
Well, number one, the threats are numerous. And this has having to do with merging. So the 5 entities that we put together for Faith in the Valley, each of them had almost a different thumbprint, a different priority, a different level of threat that they had to work, they had to rally and fight against, right? And so when you come together as one, you do have to decide where our priorities are going to be. What will we work on together? We never want to lose the local voice. That's why we have chapter directors in each of the areas to kind of ensure that this is what's going on in my county. This is what we want to fight for. But in order for the local to even have power, to have additional power, you need to also have some state level wins. And then once you win at a state level, it'll make your local officials sit up and say, well, wait a minute, you fought, you were part of that fight. And then to say nothing of having a national fight and win, right? And so, but with all of that, it kind of causes you almost to feel schizophrenic looking around from thing to thing. So the challenge is how then do you build intersectionality through the various issues, right? How do you tie them together? Because right now we don't have unlimited resources. I only have, X number of organizers, 2 or 3 or so in each of the counties, et cetera. So they can't fight every fight in isolation or in silos, but when we begin to tie them together and then come out, for example, to do one particular training and says, now since you're here, you also need to know about these things that are important, right? And so I think the biggest challenge is to try to not have that be just transactional, but for sure relational. We do that. The challenge was to help people show people how they can pay attention to multiple things at one time. And I don't want to have minds, all power and excitement and all of my effort behind it. And yours, yeah, Jeri, I'll help when I get a chance, right? See, that doesn't work, right? You have to find a way to. So we started doing a series of encounters in different places. Pastor Curtis kind of alluded to it when he talked about actually showing up at the facility here, because you can see it on Facebook, you can see it on television, but when you actually get into those spaces, you're like, are you kidding me? This is what we in California, in the United States, are making people live through, right? I had such an encounter. I went to New Mexico, Santa Fe, New Mexico, and got an opportunity to see, of course, the border wall, et cetera, but also the interior borders that I didn't know anything about, right? That's not the big wall, the big border, but that there are people in Santa Fe that literally have never been on vacation. They can't afford to leave their house. They're almost trapped in jail within their community, because if I cross an internal border, I may be deported or for sure harassed, right? Things that I wouldn't have thought even existed in the United States. Well, I got to tell you, once I had that encounter and got an opportunity to meet those lovely people that created this amazing meal for us with some of the little that they had, when you get to meet people close and in person and share and break bread with them and talk, it's no longer a secondary priority for me. It becomes my priority, right? And so to the degree that we can have multiple encounters, to have people experience something that they normally would not have an opportunity to spend. Because other than that, in the back of your mind, you always think, no, they must have did something. I don't know, that's not the way this thing works. That can't be right, until you immerse someone in what occurred. And now you're like, oh my goodness, we have to do something about this. And you're like, yeah, you got to, this is what we've been talking about, right? You've got to do something about it. And so, Pastor Curtis, I know I'm talking a lot, but one other thing I want to say is that, so from an encounter standpoint, right now, we have invitations out to a lot of the gubernatorial candidates that's coming in, because we also want them to have an encounter for the Central Valley. A lot of them come and campaign either to Southern California or to the Bay Area, but the Central Valley is here. We are powerful, we are alive and well, and we're fighting to be heard, and we're fighting for our issues to be addressed, right? And so we've invited all of our gubernatorial candidates to come out to the Central Valley, because we want them to see a Central Valley lens of what is going on. We have amazing people in the Central Valley, and they also have some pretty tough challenges, like we talked about in the area of the air quality or homelessness, etc. So we want them to have an encounter with our people so that they're not just dismissed, and we don't want to just be sandwiched between. We need them to know whoever you are, the next governor, she or he, we want absolutely for them to know that San Joaquin, the Central Valley, needs a voice in what they're doing. We need their attention, their support, and their backing to ensure that our policies see the light of day.
Great. So tell us a little bit about how your organization is funded. Of course, you can't do all this amazing work without at least a little bit of money. Yeah. So how does your funding work?
Yeah. So when we merged, we pulled all of our resources together to the degree that we could, and then each of the counties have money that they've also raised. So it predominantly money comes in from individuals. So we have people that seed into Faith in the Valley to be able to continue the work. The faith spaces that we're in relationship with, a lot of them are covenant partners, and that they agree that to give, I think it's just a small percentage of their budget each particular year to be able to help fund. So we have individuals, we have our faith spaces that also are in relationship with us, and then we have some just philanthropic funders that come in and undergird us. And so we're blessed to receive funding through the California Endowment and Sierra and some of your other big names, Irvine, et cetera, several others. And the funding, what I love about getting the money, the funding from individuals and from the congregations is it's typically what you call general operating funds, right, or for core operating, which means that we can be nimble and flexible to respond as issues occur and happen. We're very grateful and dependent actually on a lot of the other funders, the larger name funders that come in, but a lot of times they also come in with very specific deliverables of what we need to do. And so then there becomes a balance of needing to work on the things that we've told them we would, and because I've committed we actually do those things, but it also then sometimes limit our ability to move quicker to local issues. Because when you receive funding for that level, you need to take care of that, and you're doing the other, so it becomes kind of like a real fine dance that you have to make sure you're getting it all accomplished. But that's how we're getting our funding in. And
sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So if our watchers and listeners want to get in contact or want to become active in Faith in the Valley, how best to do that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The best way is to contact us. We have a website, faithinthevalley.org, and we also have our own personal email addresses. Mine is curtis@faithinthevalley.org. Phone number that you can reach us at is 209-639-8025. And basically, we're located in the Victory Praise CDC Community Development Center. At 2027 East Harding Way. That's where our offices are located, and so we are there. But yeah, reach out to us, email us. We will definitely contact. One of the ways that we build is through one-to-one conversations. And so, I was going to kind of allude back to how, some of the challenges is that, building is not a quick process in this because we're having individual conversations because we want to make sure that we're receiving, information that people will share on a personal level. It's about building relationships and that we understand that people are resources, they're not objects. Right. And so, in this work, that's kind of, a real basic, I should say, very important part of building the power that we're building is that when we walk together, we're in relationship together. And so therefore, we want to spend time in order building those relationships. And so I should say one of those challenges has been building power quickly because we're responding to so much in these times right here. But we definitely are making time to say, okay, well, we have to really sit down because it's in listening that we actually get to hear that there is a lot of intersectionality, that is there. And then actually bring awareness to, well, did you know that this is why this is happening over here? Did you know that this, right here? So we're saying that if you have any need or concern about what would you grade your community? what grade would you give them? If it's not at an A+, 100%, then you need to get in touch with us, and we need to see, because we all have to work together in all the different areas. This is it's a cumulative type situation. You can't just be one subject matter. We can't just have an A over here in math or in English. We have to really do it together, collectively, and we need everyone.
Right.
Everyone is important here. So give us a call, connect us on our website, and just, we'll be answering you in any form that you reach out to us in.
And individuals don't necessarily need to be part of a faith community to be involved. They could just be individuals, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Or if they are in a faith community, it would be great for them to spread the word, right? And to say, is our faith community involved in Faith in the Valley? Well, if not, why not? Let's go.
Yeah, there's so many benefits. You certainly do not have to be a part of a faith institution. We have some partners in the community as well that have individuals that are part of maybe some other organization. There's TOSCO and a couple of other local entities. And then we have what we're now formulating, calling a concrete group. Concrete meaning not necessarily associated. Maybe they used to be a part of a faith space a long time ago, but now they just are in the community. They have a following of people, etc., but not necessarily the faith space. So we've been doing some experimenting, working with them, because they're still very much a powerful group of individuals. And in that, it's so important. I just wanted to say again, no one feels like they're ready to organize. No one feels like, or very few people, I should say, feel like it. And they're sitting at home and they're kind of like, well, I don't know if I can do any of that. Prior to 2 years ago, I had never marched in my life, right? I was trying to figure out how to hold. They were like, okay, fists up. I'm like, how do you hold your hand? I didn't know any of that, right? And yet here I am now, and actually able to lead an organization. So you don't have to feel a certain way. You just need to have a heart for people. You just need to be able to do the research to determine that there is a problem and decide, you know what, I can do something about that. Because if everybody sit back and say it's not for me, then change never will take place. So faithinthevalley.org is the website. I strongly encourage you to go in and find a place that you can serve on that particular website. It doesn't have to be anything big. There will be a place for you to kind of plug in and work and undergird. For example, we're collecting signatures right now. Right, and if you're 18 and over, registered voter, anyone can do that. We're collecting signatures for trying to put another ballot initiative on the ballot that's schools and communities first. And this has a lot to do with trying to bring the money from the taxes that corporations are not paying, right? The Prop 13 back in, was it 78?
Yes.
1978, Prop 13 went into effect. It was wonderful for all of us homeowners and different things. It was great. We still appreciate that. This will not impact homeowners. It will not impact small businesses. But there was a residual effect that it had on us that we're trying to now correct. So for that Prop 13, there were corporations, think your Amazons and Disneylands and large corporations, right, that based on a couple of stipulations in that law that did not have to increase their taxes while the rest of us had our taxes increased. And as a result, it has it resulted in so much of loss of funds that's gone into our schools. So this Schools and Communities First initiative, just kind of keep it at a higher level, is by signing on the ballot there, collecting signatures. If we get enough signatures, it will go to vote for the public, and then you'll be able to vote to say, you know what, we really do want them to pay not extra, we just want them to pay their fair share. And in them paying their taxes, I think it's 40% automatically goes to the schools. This is not even anything we have to fight for or to ensure that it goes to the school. 40%. Back in 78, California schools, I think, were up towards the top, and now we're towards the bottom because of all of the lost funding. This is something individuals, they can do. Dial up and say, listen, tag me in. I can get some signatures, right? Because we need to be able to collect. And I think right here for this local area, our commitment to Pico, right, the part, because we're doing this in conjunction with them. Pastor Curtis had a bold number of 2,000. I think we can do more in San Joaquin Valley for our schools. And there's a good number there. The other percentage of it, we can then do some work to ensure the way that that's implemented. It could go to mental health. It can go to some of our housing situations, right? That's a longer term fight. We're down for it. We'll be here to do that fight. But for everyone else, we want to say, for you, find a ballot. Make sure you're registered to vote, even if it's not a peak year, right? Even though we're off season and et cetera, don't just wait for president. The local local voting opportunities will buy you more in your local communities as opposed to waiting to the national vote. So get in and vote. Make sure you can do that. You can contact Faith in the Valley. You can do some signature gathering, etc., and just make sure we have your signature on this particular ballot.
Good point.
And Jeri, I just want to emphasize, for San Joaquin County, it's different for each county, but for San Joaquin County, that would result in an estimated $90 million annually for our county.
million.
For our
Just
public
for
schools.
San Joaquin County, and 40 to 45% off the top goes to our school districts.
Wonderful. Yeah. Terrific. Well, before we close, I want to see, what else do we need to talk about? What else is out there that you want to make sure that our community knows about?
Well, I just want to say, in the midst of everything that is going on, Pastor Trena mentioned, what's happening with our constituents down in Sacramento, because definitely our federations are down, participating in some of these protests and things that are going on in the Sacramento area for Stephon Clark. And so I want to say, that here locally is that we've been trying to ensure efforts, in order to, actually say, because of the climate and the things that we have seen happen nationally, as far as police-involved shootings, is that we're actually taking some strides here with building trust, with our law enforcement, also with sitting at partnership tables with our district attorney to talk about excessive use of force and basically what do policies look like here, instead of having a reactive, type of situation. And unfortunately, we are reacting to some things that have happened already, but looking forward is we're talking what can we do, what policies can be implemented now in order to make sure that we do not see, what we're seeing or even more of, what we're seeing has happened down there. And so we have some of our work here, I'm kind of advertising here, the Live Free work that we're doing here in town, and we would, we're really seeing a buildup of movement, in that area. Looking at mass incarceration, I mentioned about our industry being corrections, here. So we're looking at, the reducing mass incarceration, alternative forms of, of sentencing, and things like that. Also, HEAT is a campaign that we're working on, and it stands for hiring, equipment, accountability, and training when it comes to law enforcement. And so here we're actually involved in the procedural justice training with our local law enforcement, and actually national, because they're a hub here for other officers within our within the state and actually internationally, our country, that they come here and train in Stockton with the officers here. So we're able to be involved in those trainings, in order to, so that we can try to make a change together. What we do realize is that we have to work on both ends. One of the principles of organizing is no permanent enemies, no permanent allies. And so we have to learn that balance, in that. And in the same too is not, be so affected, by it that you're not able to operate, skillfully and basically and to get, change done. Because again, in this season that we're in right now, you can become kind of, bitter towards the system. But again, as you mentioned, being an entity, where faith is involved, is that actually breaks the threshold. I was sharing with someone the other day, is that usually there's a gravity pull, that this season brings us into, that usually has to do with physicalness, with our tiredness, of the issue, with our basically our pushing for things that we're not really seeing quick change in. So a tenacious efforts seem to dwindle down. But as being people of faith, is that there actually is just like a plane lifting off from the ground, is at some point it has to break the law of gravity and be able to soar. And so our faith actually allows us to do that, to break the law of gravity. And so if there's some people who want to soar in the midst of all the things that are pulling us down, I was just saying, please, get in touch with us and come, and we're learning together, but we're flying high.
It's great.
I love that. So I just wanted to, again, thank you, Jeri, and thank the radio station, KXVS, et cetera. Yeah, we're going to soar. Faith in the Valley is going to soar, particularly for Stockton. And I want to just encourage everyone listening to just love and love harder. I think I love that actually moves us to action. Speak to someone that you normally wouldn't speak to. Sometimes you have to overcompensate for things that's going on in our environment, etc. And so just if we would greet someone with a smile, love, find out what additional work you can do beyond the comfort of your home, put yourself out a little bit, you'll feel good about it, and for sure it will cause you to soar.
Indeed. Well, thank you very much for joining us, and thank you to all our listeners, and we look forward to our future programs. Our next program next month is going to be featuring environmental justice and the faith perspective on that important issue for all of us. So thank you again, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.